Have you ever felt like you're stuck in a loop, repeating the same patterns, attracting the same situations, or hitting invisible walls no matter how hard you try to break free? What if I told you that your reality isn't as fixed as it seems, and that you already hold the power to reprogram it? In this video, I'm going to take you through 8 steps that will shift your perspective, rewire your subconscious, and help you manifest the reality that you truly desire. And I'll even share a raw personal example of how exactly I apply what I'm sharing with you in this video, and as well as some of the results that I have gotten by applying this method. So stick with me until the end, because once you understand this, you'll never be controlled by the matrix again. Disclaimer: the concepts and insights shared in this video may challenge your current perceptions of reality, beliefs, and the way you see the world. If you're not open to questioning what you already know, or exploring new perspectives, then this might not be the video for you. Everything I share here comes from personal experience and direct results, both in my life and in the lives of my clients. I'm not here to convince you of anything, only to share what resonates and has worked time and again. Take what resonates and leave what doesn't. Now, before we dive in, let me quickly introduce myself. Hi, I'm Cristina, and welcome to a space where you can release, realign, and rediscover the limitless power within you. Here, we explore clarity, freedom, and purpose as we uncover the mysteries of the soul together. Are you ready? Down the rabbit hole we go. As usual, I have some information I have already downloaded that I wanted to share with you, and we will see if any spontaneous downloads will happen as we go through the content. Step 1, understanding that you're already manifesting. Now, here's a myth that I'm not manifesting, I don't know how to manifest. The reality is that you know how to manifest because you've already been doing it. You're just not aware of it. And there's 2 ways to manifest: through questions or emotions. So, how do we manifest through questions? Well, let's first understand how our brain works. Do you know that our minds are wired to answer questions and solve problems? Do you know why you keep purchasing products or keep engaging with people's content? Because they know how the brain works and they use what's called an open loop to get your attention. Now, what's an open loop? Watch any movie trailer for any movie that you haven't yet watched and notice if you're curious to find the answer. You can even study Marvel movie trailers, Star Wars, or all the other major franchises and see if your brain doesn't immediately go, I want to know what happens. If you've been with me for a while, you might already know what I'm about to share with you. However, stick with me here because you might hear something you've never heard before. So everything is energy. The highest form of energy is a thought, and thoughts create things. In other words, whatever we think, we will create in the reality that we live. Okay. And if we start looking at exactly what we're thinking about, we can discover the thoughts that created our current reality. For example, if you're currently having financial issues or are broke, you might constantly ask yourself, why am I broke? If you want to be in a relationship and you're having a hard time being in a relationship or finding someone who doesn't cheat on you, you might be asking yourself, what's wrong with me? Why can't I find someone that won't cheat on me? And then the universe goes, here's why. And it will answer your question by creating similar circumstances so that it can keep validating the same stories. And how do we manifest through feelings or emotions? Well, here's an example. You might find yourself saying, I want to travel the world, but I want to have my own business and work for myself rather than subordinate to someone else, but I want to have kids and a family, but notice how all the examples above, there is a push and pull energy, kind of like a tug of war. For the first part, I want to travel the world. Notice your emotions there. Do you feel happy about it? Do you feel sad because you have no one to travel with? Do you feel resentment because you know you cannot travel due to financial constraints? Usually, when people say, I want to travel, they feel excited until the but. And then they stop feeling excited for whatever reason. Now, your feelings, just like your thoughts, are a concentrated form of energy. So, whatever you think about and however you feel about the things and people that you think about, the universe will continue to bring the same to you. Because in the end, the law of attraction or the law of vibration states that like attracts like. And if you keep attracting the same people that complain or are unhappy, that's because this is the vibration you're putting out there. So whenever you start judging someone, take a step back and just observe the situation and ask yourself, why am I bothered by this? You will eventually be able to do this in the moment as you keep practicing. However, if you feel yourself replaying a moment in your mind like a broken record, try being the third person, observing yourself and the other person, and notice what thoughts or feeling come up in the moment. Okay? And write them down. And we will use this later. So take a moment, pause this video right now, bring to mind something that you keep replaying in your mind, or it could be a feeling or resentment towards something or someone, and without judging yourself for what you're about to write down, you're going to write down where you are, what moment, when was it, who you were with, and just the facts of what happened. Now, we do not want to write a story about what happened. Just write the facts and stay in the moment and notice any thoughts or feelings that come up and write those down. I would prefer you actually go through your emotions when they come up. However, you might not know how to safely do that. And if that's you, then you can write down those, and I'll share a personal example of how to go through your emotions. Here's an example. So there's a moment that came to mind. For me, this was a moment that was very, very impactful. I have worked a lot on it, so I can share this with you. So where am I? I'm at home in Romania. When was this? I was 15 years old. You can either put down the age or the year. Okay, 15 years old. Who was I with? Mom and dad. What happened? I'm seeing dad beating mom. Okay, what are the thoughts that are happening? Okay, what thoughts do I notice? Okay, so here's what comes up. This is not right. She doesn't deserve this. You're a monster. I hate you. I wish you were not here. Okay, so these are 5 things that I've just uncovered that I haven't even seen before. And I've been to this moment multiple times. Okay, now what are the feelings that I'm feeling? There's definitely fear there. So when fear appears, it's afraid, scared, or worried. Definitely afraid for my life, scared for hers, and worried about what's going to happen next. There's a lot of anger with the thought of how can you do this? I trusted you, and you're not my dad. My dad would never do this. And there's sadness in there because I don't know what's going to happen next. It's like the family that I knew was gone in that moment. So now that you have an example, go ahead, pause this video and do this for yourself. Now, assuming that you finished the exercise, we'll move on. The big secret that no one wants you to know is that the universe is your genie. Yes, like in Aladdin, except that you have unlimited wishes. So when you say, I want to have a family, the universe goes, your wish is my command. And then you say, but it's too expensive. And the universe goes, your wish is my command. So instead of creating a reality where you have a family, now it's going to create a reality where it's going to give you infinite reasons why a family is too expensive. And wouldn't you love to know how to stop getting in your own way? Because truthfully, the only thing that's blocking whatever you want in life is you. Another thing that not a lot of people talk about is that the universe doesn't know the word no. It only knows energy. And whatever you give your energy to, it will manifest, even if you got something like this going on. And if your thoughts are backed with emotions, it will manifest even faster in either direction. And I'll share a story that will best illustrate this point. Let's say you go whitewater rafting. And as you go down the river, your instructor says, there's a rock there. Let's not hit that rock. Now, about this time, you're probably starting to feel afraid, and both of you are thinking, do not hit the rock, do not hit the rock, do not hit the rock. And what ends up happening? You hit the rock. Why? Well, because you are both focusing on not hitting the rock, and you had a lot of emotion attached into it. Okay? And again, the universe does not know the word no. It only knows energy. And haven't you ever thought about something that you didn't want to happen and actually happened? Why? Same reason. What would your life look like if instead of focusing on not hitting the rock, you would actually focus on how to steer the boat through the clearing and reach your goals? I'm curious to know what would be possible for you. So let me know in the comments below. Step 2, work with the law of duality rather than against it. Now, the law of duality is a universal law, and it states that in order for one thing to exist, the opposite must exist also. There can't be a day without a night, a left without a right, an up without a down. You get the point. In other words, there cannot be only a positive without a negative. Also, positive and negative are just labels, along with other labels that we use, such as narcissist, abusive, manipulative, and a lot more. And it's subjective to the interpretation of the person perceiving them. And the way you perceive things is directly linked to what you value in life. If someone supports your values, you will befriend them. If someone challenges your values, you will alienate them. We believe that we choose the people that are in our lives, but in reality, our hierarchy of values does all the choosing for us. So I'm going to create another video going deeper into the topic of the hierarchy of values and how it actually affects our lives without us even knowing. And if you're interested, you can search for that video in the comments below. Now, for a very long time, we've been sold the idea that we should live an only positive life. That is a fantasy. You will attract a nightmare to wake you up to the fact that that is a fantasy. So now we spend the majority of our lives hating and resenting the shadow side of us because we've been led to believe that we shouldn't feel like this. We should only feel positive all the time. And if that is you, let me ask you this. How's that working out for you? The majority of the people who try to live a one-sided life end up depressed and start hating themselves because they are chasing an ideal that will never manifest in 3D because of the law of duality. And for those of you who don't know, the law of duality is actually the 2D. And I'm going to explain this and I'm going to tie it all together at the end. And the more you chase living a one-sided life and disowning the ugly, bad, shameful shadow side of you, whatever you're calling that side of you, the more you will attract circumstances that will bring you back into balance. Why? Because the universe loves balance. And if you don't know how to balance yourself out, the universe will do that for you. Also, you could end up bipolar, which is the most extreme case where you only want to see one side of life and use terms as always and never. He's always late. He never does anything around the house. When in reality, that's not true. I can guarantee you that if you allow yourself to look, you will see moments when he is on time and he does help around the house. And how do I know that? It's the basic law of duality. Now, if you decide to look and say, there's no moments where he does the opposite, then that's how I know you're in your amygdala and your survival mode is kicking in. And that will not allow you to see the other side unless you know how to work with yourself and get yourself out of fight, flight, or freeze. The amygdala is the most primitive part of the brain and it's designed to keep you safe. You wouldn't be alive today without your amygdala. So you can give it a huge thanks. However, sometimes your amygdala can perceive something as a threat that is actually not a threat, and yet it still perceives it like one. Why? Well, since it's the most primitive part of the brain, it is going to equate it back to the caveman and cavewoman era. For example, how do you feel about crying in public? If you had any reaction, thought, or emotion come up as you heard that question, that was your amygdala. The reason I chose that example is because for some of the clients that I've worked with, showing emotions in general, especially crying, is associated with weakness. And whenever we trace it back to the origins, it does go back to the caveman and cavewoman era when we were living in a tribe. And if the tribe perceives us as weak, they could cast us out of the tribe, and now we're alone and a predator might kill us. It does take some time to undo that belief. However, it can be undone because I haven't done it for myself and I have coached other people through it as well. So now we know that whenever we react to something, it's just the amygdala trying to keep us safe, even if we are consciously aware that there's no threat. Whenever we get triggered, as in we judge or resent someone, as we're interacting with them, we're going to react from the amygdala instead of respond from the prefrontal cortex. Okay. The prefrontal cortex is the front of the brain, and the amygdala is somewhere in the back of the brain. And note that the current moment that triggers the reaction has nothing to do with the current moment, and it has everything to do with the past. In the moment where you feel triggered, the universe is giving you signs that it wants you to heal something, so you can choose to honor that and figure out what it is so you can heal, or you can choose to ignore it. And the same circumstances will keep on repeating themselves until you either notice the pattern and consciously choose to change it, or you don't notice the pattern. And that's when the universe decides to slap you in the face because you're ignoring, the gentle taps on the shoulder and, elbow nudges and all that it's giving you. In other words, you have a choice. You either repeat the same pattern over and over and over again, like, dating the same person with a different face, or you become consciously aware when someone triggers you, as in notice your thoughts and your emotions and then choose to dissolve it. Now, I want to be clear. Just because you're aware of your triggers, that alone is not sufficient to change the outcome. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result, said Albert Einstein. So if you're only aware of your triggers and not actually working on dissolving them, let me ask you this. How's that working out for you? No amount of meditation or positive thinking can get you to see the root cause of whatever triggered you or dissolve it. On some level, these might actually be escapism tools used as excuses to why not to dissolve the charges. I'll meditate on that. I'll just think positive thoughts. How's that working out for you? I have had conversations with people who meditate and they cannot feel the inner peace, calmness, or quiet their mind as I or my clients can. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not saying that meditations are bad. Meditation has its uses if we know how to use it most effectively. The number one question that people who start meditating have is, how do I turn my brain off? You have to understand that unless you acknowledge and allow yourself to analyze whatever you're ruminating on and dissolve it, your mind will keep ruminating on it. Why? Because it's a feedback mechanism that's trying to tell you there's something from your past and it wants you to look into it and heal it. Now, how do I figure out exactly what it wants me to look into? By asking yourself precise and intentional questions. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions asked, said Dr. Johnny Martini. We already know that the brain loves questions. It just loves questions. So then why not play with it and ask it precise and intentional questions that will help reveal the content of your subconscious, uncover the event it wants you to look on, notice the emotions and thoughts associated with that event, feel each one of your emotions one by one until you dissolve it, extract the wisdom of that moment, and watch your life transform from that moment on. Does that mean that you'll never be triggered again? No, it does not. Because you're like an onion. And once one layer has been peeled back, another layer is revealed. So that dissolves the fantasy that we only need to work on ourselves one time and we've healed it all. The reality is that you signed up for this before you were born. And your number one mission on this earth is to heal yourself. You cannot heal yourself without a physical body. And the reason we want to heal is so our souls can grow and evolve. And if you want more information on that, I do suggest you watch the video on a reincarnation, and I will link that below. Our souls cannot grow and evolve if we do not experience any challenges. Now, if we only experience challenges or only experience support, that again is out of balance. Because if you experience only challenges, you will be in a constant state of survival and you're not going to let your body rest. And your body is going to start hurting and eventually it's going to die of exhaustion. Or on the other hand, if you're only experiencing support, you'll start to pig out. You start to, put some pounds on. And now when a predator comes, you'll be the one that won't be able to move as fast and you'll probably die. Optimal growth occurs at the border of support and challenge, said Dr. Johnny Martini. We need a balance between challenge and support. And the truth is that the universe is created in balance. We're just the ones that choose to see one side of it because we want to be right. Now, there are two ways you can start uncovering what is hidden in your subconscious. You can either try to do it by yourself by asking yourself certain questions and feel the emotions that come up. However, the majority of the people prefer number two, which is working with someone who knows what questions to ask at what time, guides you to your answers, and also knows how to guide you on how to safely release those emotions. Another common thread among the clients I work with is that they don't want to feel their emotions because they're afraid of hurting someone else. So they stuff their emotions down and the body eventually starts to speak to them in terms of, this is hurting and that is hurting and this is hurting. And if they keep on stuffing the emotions down for a very, very long time, eventually this can lead to more serious diagnoses like cancer or autoimmune diseases. Why? Because your emotions are energy and energy needs to be released. And if you do not release them and they get internalized and stored in the body, if we do not know how to interpret the aches and the pains of the body, and we go to the doctor and we get some pills and the symptoms go away, so we keep ignoring the issue and eventually we start removing organs. Every part of the body has a specific question that can be asked to release the stored energy. That's why I suggest you work with someone who knows what questions to ask based on your body symptoms or the thoughts and feelings you're experiencing. And if you resonate with me so far and want to work with me on releasing some of the stored energy, I'll leave a link in the description below on the ways that you can work with me. Now that we know that whatever we feel in the moment is just a feedback mechanism trying to let us know that there's something that wants to be healed, let's go and see how these limiting beliefs are formed. Step 3. Understanding how limiting beliefs and stories are formed. So we're going to go all the way back to the beginning. before you're bored. And again, I highly, but highly recommend you go watch the video that I did on reincarnation, because that's going to go way deeper into this topic that I'm going to go here. So I'm going to leave that below. So before you're born, you already come in with inherited emotions and patterns from your ancestors. From 0 to 7 is where the majority of your programming comes. And this is because we're so susceptible to the environment and people around us, which is usually mom and dad. So if you notice that you start talking like your dad or behaving like your mom, that's why. And from ages 7 to your current age, on top of everything, we add life experiences. So now we're actually working with 3 layers of limiting beliefs and stories. Let's say something happened at age 3. At that time, our brain is still underdeveloped, so we can't rationalize what happened. Instead, we attach emotions to whatever happened. So at 3 years old, an event happened and you felt scared. Let's say that something happens to you now and you feel scared. Every time you feel scared, you will default back to that 3-year-old and you will start acting like that. So now you have a 3-year-old in an adult body. And I'll give you a concrete example. When my mom was 3 years old, her mom left her at her granny's house so Granny could take care of her. My mom is now 58, and every time she interacts with her mom, she says that she just wants to spend time with her, and her mom doesn't want to. And when we worked on discovering what was there, we discovered how she reverts back to the 3-year-old that was left by her mother. And all she wanted to do was be with her mom, and her mom didn't want to. So when we went back and looked at what she told herself when her mom left her at her granny's house, she had a perception that she was abandoned. The majority of people believe that we make our decisions based on our conscious mind, when in reality, it's the subconscious that runs the show. And the subconscious's only job is to make sure that it's right. Why? Because the subconscious mind, also known as the amygdala, its only job is to validate the stories we keep telling ourselves. How is it possible? Well, everything is energy. The highest form of energy is a thought, and thoughts create things. The internet was once a thought in someone's head, and now it's reality. The plane was once a thought in someone's head, and now it's reality. The phone in your hand was once a thought in someone's head, and now is reality. So we create our reality based on the thoughts in our head. So here's another way to look at this. You have an event. Let's say we're going to work on my mom's story. So, event, she gets left at Granny's house. That is the event. Emotion, sad. The story that she told herself about the event. Okay, story she told herself about the event. I was abandoned. What did I make this mean about me? What did I make this mean about me? I know that she said that she was not lovable. Now, you want to go and identify the same things with the exercise that you wrote down in step 1. What's the event? What were the feelings? Usually it's more. So sadness. These are all the feelings. There's no more than these, okay? Because at the age of 0 to 7, you don't have disappointed, you don't have depressed, you don't have that language. So you want to go back into that moment, which is going to be somewhere between 0 to 7, and see what goes on in there. So emotions, sad and anger. Okay. Wherever there's sadness, there's also anger. Wherever there's anger, there's also sadness. These come in pairs. And it's very, very important, if you land on sadness, to go find the anger. If you land on anger, go find the sadness. Okay, this is very important to find both of them and neutralize them because these go in pairs. Okay, then there's fear. And fear has 3 flavors. Okay, one is afraid, one is scared, the other one is worried. Okay, so if you land on fear, ask yourself, is it afraid, scared, or worried? Could be more than one. Then you write those down and you go ahead and feel each one of them. Okay, and usually all these 3 are going to go back to sadness or anger. Okay, so this is the other way to uncover your limiting beliefs, to uncover the stories. Now, you don't want to go into a story here, okay? Because the story is going to be, oh, she abandoned me. This is what I made it mean to me. Okay, this is the story that I told myself, that she abandoned me. The event is she left me at my granny's house. That's the event. Those are the facts. The story is I was abandoned. See the difference? Okay. So here you report on the facts. And here you extract the story. And once you land on the story, you start asking yourself, what emotions are there? Because once you dissolve the emotions, so once this goes out, everything else goes. And what you're doing here is literally you're rewriting the past. So when people say that, oh, you can't rewrite the past, you can't go back and change it, what if I told you that you can? Because you're only changing your perception about what happened. You're not changing the facts, you're not changing the event. I did see my dad being my mom. My mom was left on my granny's doorstep. I can't change that. But I can change the perceptions, the stories, and I can dissolve the emotions that I attach to it. And that is how we rewrite the past, because that once that is done, this also goes away. And you won't believe me what I'm saying, even with a quote unquote horrible event as seeing my dad beating my mom, I was still able to say, thank you, I love you, I wouldn't change a thing, to my dad. This is power. When you can get to this from whatever event, your life is going to transform and change. And how do I know that? Well, I'm about to share some more things with you. And again, at the end, I am going to share with you a raw personal experience of how I do this. Step 4. Understanding the 3 R's. When you react and are in your amygdala, you will come across the 3 R's. So the first R is resentment, which is what we usually feel when we're triggered. Think of resentment as a pool of unhealed energy that you've been pushing down and holding because something happened when you were not actually allowed to experience it. Okay, so it never released itself. Resentment energy is any emotional reaction to something that has said or done, not said or not done, or something that you thought was said or done shouldn't have been said or should have been said or done. It's any type of those. So the thing itself doesn't even have to happen. You just have to perceive that it did or wish that it did, and you can end up in resentment. Have you ever wished someone would have spent more time with you and now you either resent them or miss them? When an external circumstance presents itself, a reaction might be triggered by the amygdala. Whenever the reaction is harsh or whether it's mild, it's still an emotional energy going on inside of you. Examples, you could raise your eyebrow, you could feel like slapping the crap out of someone, or you can think, how stupid can someone be? The goal is to become aware of your reactions by analyzing thoughts and emotions as you interact with the external world, like other people, places, or circumstances. Some people may say, this is just the way I am, and that's not true. If you allow yourself to look, you can trace your behavior back to a point where something happened, and from that moment forward, your behavior was altered. For example, my mom gets triggered just by thinking of someone who smokes, not even being in the same room with them, but thinking about a random person smoking. And she wanted to look into that. What we uncovered was that she wasn't always like that. And there was a time when she didn't mind the cigarette smoke. So we were able to uncover 2 events that had her starting to resent cigarette smoke and the people who smoked it. One of them was when she was pregnant with me. She was at work. The majority of the ladies went out to smoke, and while smoking, they were eating peanuts or some type of shells, and they were throwing the shells on the stairs. Now, when my mom wanted to go down the stairs, she tripped and fell because she couldn't see what she was stepping on because she was pregnant, so she couldn't see, below the belly. The second event was when she was working in another place and people actually smoked inside the building where they were working, and my mom eventually passed out because of the smoke. People had to drag her outside in the snow for her to recover. When we landed on those 2 events that she had suppressed for all this time, she realized that whenever she came across someone who smoked cigarettes, the universe were actually telling her to go clear these moments. Now, is her resentment towards cigarettes completely gone? No, we just took 2 layers off of this one, which allowed her to stop having a reaction when she hears about someone who smokes or thinks about random people smoking. On the other hand, I am aware that I don't enjoy people who smoke, and at the same time, I don't judge them for doing so. I did way too much work on myself and come to respect my body enough that I choose to remove myself from people's lives if they don't align with me anymore. No judgment, no wanting or asking them to change. I just know what I want and what I don't want next to me or in my body, and I'm not willing to negotiate on that. Smoking in general and drinking lowers my vibration, and then I start attracting things that are low in vibration and potentially even a few invisible friends, which then again, I'll work extra hard to, send them packing. So because I'm aware of the circumstances, I choose not to expose myself to those types of situations. And just to be clear, it's not like I crave cigarettes and alcohol and I'm not allowing myself to indulge. I have no desire for it. Coming back to the conversation, when something happens externally, Like you see someone get mistreated or even hear a baby crying, some people will have a reaction to a baby crying because they can't help the baby and they want to help the baby and they want to stop it from crying. Anytime you're presented with an external circumstance that you want to fix or help, that is a reaction. This could be a normal theme in your life. And every reaction has a benefit. Otherwise, we wouldn't keep on doing it. We don't do anything without a benefit. Now, we might not be aware of the benefits of why we do what we do, why we say what we say, or why we don't say or do certain things. However, there is a benefit in anything. And how do I know that? The basic law of duality. Your reactions can be so mild that you become emotionally or physically numb, and this is where you might start harming yourself just to see if you're alive. Your desires are beginning to melt away as if they don't exist. And in your mind, that's the way my dad was because that's the way your dad was. It's a mild reaction, but it's still a reaction. So we're looking for the reactions that take place when expectations are unmet. What happens if someone said they were going to do something, be somewhere, be a part of something, and it didn't work out? They didn't do that. It's when life isn't working out the way it should be. I should have picked up the mail. I should be getting paid more than I'm getting paid. He or she should have treated me better. He shouldn't have cheated on me. She shouldn't have yelled at me, and so on. It's when something should be this way. The world is like a bad movie. I can't believe this is happening. Are we really letting this happen? I'm not above this at all. And I know some of the people that this work originated from, and they still get triggered. The goal is not to not get triggered anymore because that's a fantasy. And again, you'll attract the nightmare to wake you up to the fact that this is a fantasy. Okay. The goal is to be in a balanced state of both challenge and support so your soul can evolve. And because we have the awareness and the tools to navigate life, we get to live a different type of life where we're the creators of our world instead of being a consequence of repeating the same patterns. You have your own types of reactions when it comes to where you should be in life. I should be smarter. I should have more money. I should have a different lifestyle. I should own a house. I should be married. I shouldn't be married. I should never have married him or her. I should have, insert your version here. Whenever we start with the shoulds, that's an indicator that the amygdala and the resentment energy are the ones constantly assessing things and seeing where there's always lack, where there's always need, where there's always a reaction that needs to take place. The resentment energy is present in you, and you have things that were never healed. Things that you never allow yourself to go through or express. Maybe you weren't allowed to get angry when you were younger. Maybe you weren't allowed to tell the truth or to be yourself. Maybe they forgot you at a grocery store or forgot your birthday. Maybe you had to wear hand-me-downs. Maybe you were bullied and you couldn't fight back, and so on. And because of that, you are now the one who bullies. Because whatever we resent, we either attract, create, or become. For example, I resented my dad for the way that he treated me when I was younger, and so I married a man that would treat me exactly like my dad did. Because I resented the marriage my mom and dad had, I recreated it with my ex-husband. Another way we create this is through epigenetic. And everything we judge and admire in other people is something we're too proud or too humble to admit that whatever we see in them is also within us. So at the moment of conception, everything your parents admired or despised in themselves or admired and despised in other people were passed down to you and stored in the memory cells of your body. And you're not alone in this. We all have had things happen that we didn't work through. And when you're small, your only goal is to survive. So we start doing things and behaving in certain ways that will ensure our survival. You're not mature enough to understand that if you don't work through this energy when it's generated, you're going to have to work through it later. You would expect your parents to teach you how to work through this energy, right? Because in the end, you're the universe in human form. However, how can they teach you something that they have no clue about? They taught you what they knew at that time. and your parents did the best that they could to raise you with what they had. Number two, resistance. Resistance energy is the psychological reaction to change. You're not acting on the charge that's happening in your world. You're reacting to the charge. This is like a self-protection technique where you struggle or you oppose the change. For example, if you have a large family and you want to take a family picture to send out on your Christmas card, you might want to take the family picture. However, you're also going to see people in resistance to taking that picture, and they will do everything they can so that picture does not get taken. That's called resistance. So you're both resisting the reality that is before you. You're thinking that you're going to have the perfect picture that, 30 years from now, everybody's going to look at it and they're going to be like, oh my God, look how cute they were. And then you have that one person or a few of them that are hell-bent on that not happening. Ring any bells? It's when we struggle or oppose the change that's actually in front of us. That's resistance. When you oppose a change, that's when the amygdala gets fired up and a program is triggered. And a program is a set, defined, habitual pattern that you've used over and over and over again. For example, driving a car. When you get into a car, you probably do not have to think much because you've driven it for 30 plus years, probably. This could also happen with certain aspects of your relationships. We always go on vacations here. You always say, I love you before going to bed at night. You always walk in the kitchen and open up the refrigerator door, and so on. It's when you decide to adhere to those patterns, that programming, or those set behaviors rather than doing something different. We always do this. And so you'll always do that regardless of whether it is beneficial to you or not. That is the biggest problem with resistance. Resistance emerges when you oppose a change simply by saying what is, isn't. For example, there's no money in the bank to pay this bill. So you start to freak out. The point is that there's no need to freak out because there's no money. You cannot pay the bill. So when you freak out, you're creating a smokescreen. You're basically saying what is, isn't, or that something shouldn't be this way. For example, what is happening in the world right now should not be happening. The economy should not be happening. The way it's gender specific should not be happening. We shouldn't have to deal with our political system the way that it is. When Reagan was in office, you get the point. The truth is that this is the way that it is. Number three, revenge. And I'm going to ask you to continue to keep an open mind as we talk about this. Revenge is generally talked about as a dish best served cold. Revenge, if we look at it through movies, is the I'm gonna get you back, I'm gonna get even with you, I'm gonna insert your version here. It's all about who was treated poorly, and then the person got him back by saying or doing something. And every movie seems to be based on this particular theme. Revenge also stems from a reaction because an action comes when the prefrontal cortex is running the show, and a reaction comes when the amygdala is running the show. Basically, when you're engaging something external in hopes of alleviating something internal, the reality is that I'm the source of everything and it's an inside job. Revenge is when you look externally to fix the inside job that you cannot fix that externally. Me hitting you is not going to make me happier. Drinking and getting stuck on any sort of dependence, these things are not actually alleviating the internal energy you're trying to numb. Revenge is when you want to get even or you want to blame something or someone. For example, I yell at you, you cry, you think I'm causing your tears or I'm causing your pain. I cannot cause your pain. I cannot make you shed tears. If I hit you, you will not feel pain. What you feel is a sensation. You will feel the sensation of my hand hitting your face. That meaning of two entities, one will move and one will not. And so the sensation that you're experiencing is merely a sensation. It doesn't become pain until your mind says it's painful. You will notice this in a small child when they run, fall down the stairs, or fall out of the car, fall off of their bike, and so on. And the first thing that they do is they look at you to see if they should be in pain. And if you don't give them much attention, then for the most part, they think that they should be in pain. And so they're not in pain. And what they do is they take in the experience of falling off the bike or down the stairs. Even if they did break a bone, they're still going to come to you to see if they should or should not feel pain. And it's an experience. I can't blame you for my tears. I cannot blame you for my pain. I cannot blame you for what it is that I am experiencing, because I know that I am the source of all this. Revenge is when you're trying to blame self or others, whether that be a circumstance, a person, a deity, the universe, the world, and so on. Why are they doing this to me? Why does this always happen to me? Why do I always catch the red light? You know you're in resistance when you start asking questions like these. And because we know that our mind loves to answer questions, now it's going to create circumstances to answer you. Here's why they're doing this to you. Here's why this always happens to you. Here's why you're always catching a red light. You know you're in revenge because you start degrading, demanding, or dehumanizing yourself or others. These are the snarky comments which tend to be degrading to you or to others. It's an attempt at damaging you or others. It's an attempt at dehumanizing you most likely than others. Whenever a comment or an action becomes degrading, damaging, or dehumanizing you or someone around, that is revenge. Children will do this immediately because they've learned how to be in the 3 R's based on the people around them. This is where you start looking at yourself and asking yourself, why do I look at them this way? You have certain looks, certain stances, certain energies that you bring forth that either degrade or you could be degrading to others. Your ability to use your eyes to express something in such a way that all you have to do is look at someone and they would feel really, really small. That's a degrading, damaging action. That's how you know you're in the 3 R's. And in that moment, you made that mean something to you, even if it had nothing to do with you. And because whenever someone is in the 3 R's and you make it mean something about yourself, you might have the tendency to shut down either physically or emotionally. You will remove yourself emotionally. It doesn't mean you'll physically move away, but you will shut down and remove yourself emotionally. And at the first chance you get, you withdraw, you retreat, and you find a way to get yourself out of that scenario and rarely tell anyone about it. That's what revenge looks like. Aggression comes in many forms, and you've heard of passive aggression, you heard of aggression. You can be passively violent with snarky comments. I was just joking. I used to joke actually quite a lot. However, I don't do that anymore. Why? Because the subconscious mind does not distinguish between what's true and what's not. So it will store everything in there. And I've worked way too hard to clear my subconscious mind, so I do not want to store that stuff again in there. So you can be passively hostile, you can be passively angry, you can be passively belligerent, etc. Someone can either hit you with a baseball bat or beat you up emotionally. Hostility, anger, belligerence, antagonism. I just use these words because I want you to realize that this is what you and I do. We make it look like it's nice, but it's not so nice. We make it look like it's an accident, but it's not an accident. It's something that you're doing, and there are benefits to continuing doing it this way. And how do I know? Because we do not do anything without a benefit. Even being in debt, you see more benefits of being in debt than being financially stable. Other forms of revenge could be drinking, finding things to pacify yourself with, getting angry at others, kicking the cat, going out and working in the garage by yourself. The 3 R cycle. Whenever the 3 R's hit, we start seeing the world through filters. Imagine yellow sunglasses, for example. When you're in the 3 R's, you start seeing the world through a yellow sunglass lens. You're seeing life in a filtered format. And all you can hear is snarky comments. All you can hear is angry responses. All you can hear is demeaning language and so on. When you get around a religious person, they have a very set line of filters, and those filters are constantly in judgment on whether your actions are in alignment with what they believe their religion should be. This is also true when it comes to parents and how they parent their children. When it comes to people and how they think business should operate, they see things on a set of filters. And when they're fundamental filters, that's when they get reactive, and that's when the fun begins. Because now they're not offering you advice, now they're seeing how stupid you really are. And so it's a filtering system by which we begin to see the world. Example of filters: people you can't trust because they are out to get you. They are going to take something or steal something. Something bad is going to happen. All men are pigs. And so that's how you're going to see and deal with the world. We utilize these filters in different time frames in our lives, and all these filters are based on the past. All this energy is in the past. However, we bring it with us into the present and into the future. Do you know why people cry at weddings and at funerals? You're not crying about the current wedding. You're crying about past wedding, past funerals. That's how it works. And when we're going back in the amygdala, we're reacting again. Oh, you want to see how angry I can get? I'll show you how angry I can get. You want to see what I can do? I'll show you what I can do. I'll go even bigger than this. So you get into this cycle where you start to talk to people about this, and they're like, oh yeah, and they start cheering you on, and they tell their story and you tell yours, and before you know it, you're trauma bonding in victimhood mentality, and now you're stuck in this cycle in a past scenario, in a past situation. For example, one of my ex-boyfriends and I went to a 3-day mindset event and came back home. We were broken up at that time, and I asked him for a little time to move out because I had nowhere to go. And when we came home, he started yelling, screaming, and slamming the door. And it was like that for at least an hour to an hour and a half or so. Sometime after he calmed down, he said that he had talked to people at the event about our situation, and they started to validate his victimhood, started to trauma bond because they started to share their stories and what they went through. And then he started to behave in a way that was not typical for him. And I said some things to him before the event began, and he didn't even hear what I said to him. He heard what he thought that I said to him, which was nothing to do with what I actually told him, which I actually found very, very fascinating. And this is the 3R cycle. You start to hear and see things that are not there, and you're more likely to be influenced with other people because they start validating your story, and you might actually start doing things that they suggest. Step 5, understanding the transformational model. All transformation merely says is to experience it completely. In other words, be in the moment, not in the past with filled resentment, or not in the future with imagined fears. The only way to heal is by allowing yourself to enter into the transformation process. Number 1, resistance. Resistance is telling you that something wants to be healed. This is where you either blame yourself or the world. Number 2, acknowledge. Acknowledge that resistance is present. Simple as, I don't want to do that. Acknowledge that there is resistance there. Usually the last person who knows that they're in resistance is the person who is in resistance that's about to go into revenge. You can either choose to go into revenge, or you can choose to do something different. Number 3, acceptance. To get to acceptance, you have to give up what you think you already know. Like thinking that you're right and realizing that being right is not a good or a bad thing, just like not being wrong is not a good or a bad thing. Because in the end, life is empty and meaningless. Inherently, it has no meaning. For example, what does it mean when I do this? Nothing, I dropped a pen. What does it mean if I do this? Still nothing. I just dropped a pen. For those of you that said that this means mic drop, it is not. In fact, this is just dropping a pen. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that I'm stupid. It doesn't mean that I'm clumsy. It just means that I dropped a pen. It really has no inherent meaning. It's what we make it mean. We add meaning to everything because our brains cannot comprehend things otherwise. I'm not a good or a bad person. I'm a person. You are not a good or a bad person. You're a person. I'm not enough or I am enough. The thing is that there is no such thing as good, bad, right, or wrong. It's all in perception. Here is the easiest way to understand perception. When this picture came out, a lot of people thought that Prince William was giving the finger. And the people that were viewing him from this angle never thought that. This is what perception does. When you change your point of view, what you think about and what you feel about the person or the situation is going to change. To give up the fact that there's no such thing as good, bad, right, or wrong could be quite challenging for some people. And I know it was for me. When you give up what you think you already know, then what is no longer is, what is isn't. It becomes what is, and you get to let it go. There is no money. He is gone. She's gone. You're divorced in your 40s. You have no relationship with your children, and so on. 4, be in the now and experience it completely. So you're going to allow yourself to experience it completely, that moment that comes up for you, because back when that event happened, you probably were not allowed to cry or feel angry or say what was actually going on for you. So now the universe is sending you signals that there is something for you to look into. And once you find this moment and allow yourself to experience it completely, and I'll share a practical example later on in this video, here you want to notice how you do not allow yourself to feel the feelings that come up. Do you get bored? If it feels like you're about to feel pain, do you shut down? I had a client who, whenever we would work with him really and got him really, really close to tears, he would switch into gratitude, and this was his way out. I was working with someone else, and she said that she had an issue being vulnerable with women because she views them as a threat. And she has no issues crying in front of men. However, when we dug into why is it that this was there and who was the person that she views as a threat that was a female, it was her mother. My way out was hiding and crying alone. I didn't let anyone hear me, and I also didn't let myself feel angry. So a lot of those emotions were stuffed in my body from when I was little, and that is why I was a sick child growing up. I since dissolved that, and now I have no issues crying on planes and airports and so on. In fact, I quite enjoy it. So, for example, I had a flight from Tennessee to Vegas, and in that flight, I noticed that I was admiring someone, and my brain immediately went to my tools and started taking that person off of the pedestal and me out of the pit. And by the time I landed, I was a completely changed person. And tears were streaming down my face in the plane. And I was in a 3-seater row at the window. I didn't care. We all have a way out. What is your way out? How do you behave when you're about to display emotions either alone or with others? If you feel pulled to share, I'd love to know what your way out is. So whenever you land on that moment that your higher self wanted you to look at, first of all, honor it. Your higher self has called you into this moment because this moment has an answer, and the answer comes in the form of an experience. And you've already decided before you incarnated that you would experience that moment. You just forgot because of the veil of forgetfulness. And again, if you have no clue what I'm talking about, I highly suggest you go and watch the video where I talk about reincarnation, and I'll link that down below. And because this moment that you're called to experience has been orchestrated by your soul before you incarnated, you cannot avoid it. The only way out is through. And you can keep putting the moment off and storing that energy in your body and having it wreak havoc on your body and break it down eventually, or you can release it. Just like you put off washing the clothes, which this seems something that the majority of the people dislike, including myself, so I delegated that to my dishwasher. And the dishes pile up and pile up and pile up until you have no more clean dishes. And now there might actually even be living organisms in that pile of dishes. And once you're done with the dishes, you're like, I have no clue why I was resisting this so much because I'm already done. And if you put some music on, you might actually have some fun while doing it. For example, I dislike cleaning the house. However, when I do, I either put on music or I listen to a seminar again so I can refresh my mind. And yes, I actually do that. You can find something that you like to do and do that while you're doing something that you dislike. I wasn't inspired in my last job. It wasn't challenging enough. So I would listen to copywriting classes. Meanwhile, I was working. Now, when I say copywriting classes, I mean as in the words that go out in the ads. That's also called copywriting. Now, I couldn't practice, however, I could listen. And maybe you can listen to an audiobook or talk to your friends as you do something that, doesn't require your full attention, and you could put yourself on autopilot. And yes, that is a thing. For example, when you drive, you're in the car, however, your mind is somewhere else. That is autopilot. If you have a job where you only do copy and paste stuff like I did, you're going to do that on autopilot because your mind is going to be already somewhere else. Because I know mine was. So as we come back to the transformational model, because you're afraid of what you might uncover in that moment, you're trying to control it. However, when you finally let go of trying to control it and experience it completely, that is when you go into the next step. And I want to insert something here because if you are in this stage where you want to go and look into your stuff, but you're really, really afraid of what it is that you are going to uncover, I highly suggest you start working with someone, because I worked with someone for around a year to a year and a half before I actually was confident enough to do this by myself and release all the triggers by myself. Okay. Even today, I sometimes ask for help and it's totally fine. I sometimes work on myself. I sometimes ask for help. It's totally fine. In the beginning, though, I did need that hand holding because I didn't know what to do and I was afraid and I was scared. And I was worried that I was actually not going to be able to pull myself out of it. However, working with someone gave me the structure, gave me the guidance, and I saw that even when I was at the lowest of my lowest, there was something that could pull me out of it. Okay. So again, if you are called to do that with me, I am going to leave a link down below and you can go ahead and check out the ways that you can work with me. Number 5, nothingness. Nothingness is when you look back at the original moment, at the original charge, either the event or the person, and you realize that there is nothing there. So remember when resentment is, you either blame yourself or blame others, where nothingness, when you get in here, you realize that there's nothing to blame. Okay. There's no resentment, there's no admiration, and nothing standing in your way to say, thank you, I love you, I wouldn't change a thing. And from that moment forward, you are a different person. You let go of a layer that wanted to come off, and now you allow your body to rest and heal. Usually, when I work on myself, I just want to take an Epsom salt bath, eat something, and sleep. That's why I prefer to work on myself as the last step of my day so I can actually take a bath, eat, and sleep. I also increased my water intake before and after I worked on myself to allow the energies in my body to realign themselves. And once I feel either resentment or admiration again, I start the process from the top. This is why I tend to stay away from people who try to sell me on the fact that I only need this one thing and I healed it all. Because I know that that's not true based on personal experience. The reality is that we're like an onion, and when we peel off one layer, there's another layer, and it's going to let you know when it wants that layer to come off. And I trust myself enough to listen to my thoughts, my emotions, my body symptoms, as well as pay attention to the people and the circumstances that I keep attracting. And once I see that there's something off or notice a pattern, I get to the root cause of it and solve it. Sometimes I do it alone, sometimes I'm guided to do it with other people, and I honor whatever it wants me to do. Number 6. Choice comes from nothingness, not to be confused with data-driven decisions. And what I'm about to share with you might go against some of the things you're used to. However, keep an open mind. Now, here's the difference between data-driven decisions and choice that comes from nothingness. Example, you're about to fly from LA and you're going to look at certain criteria for purchasing a plane ticket. Probably how many stops there are, how many hours you spend on the flight, maybe the price, maybe the layover time, do you arrive the same day or a day later, and so on. That is a data-driven decision. And the problem with data-driven decisions is once a data-driven decision has been made and new data is introduced, a new decision must be made. Choice comes from nothingness, and from choice you will commit, create, and connect. Commitment is a choice I make that I surrender to. Creation is a choice I make that I surrender to. Connection is a choice I make that I surrender to. They are not based off of data. For example, the majority of the population make a decision to be married, and when new information is introduced, a new decision must be made. What new information? Like the new secretary, the new neighbor down the street, the new pool boy or handyman, and so on. When you're married for a while, all of a sudden, a little happier and funnier version of them comes along, and now a new decision must be made. You have to decide again if you want to be with your current spouse or not. It doesn't mean that you're going to get divorced. However, it will create havoc in their relationship. And once you get to the point of choosing who you're with rather than deciding, that is a totally different ballgame. Another way to view this is when you can see someone for who they truly are in this moment and not for who you want them to be. There's no judgment, no admiration, and that is unconditional love. Step 6, experiencing unconditional love. First of all, let's see what unconditional love really is. Unconditional love is a type of love where it doesn't matter what they do, don't do, they say, don't say, because you love them for exactly who they are in this moment without wanting to change anything about them. Not their appearance, not the way they talk, not the way they behave, not the decisions they made, and so on. You accept them for who they are in this moment, flaws and all, labels and all, victimhood and all. However, the majority of people give and receive conditional love. As in, I'll love you until you behave the way I want you to behave. And if you don't behave the way I want you to behave, then I don't love you anymore. And right about this time, you're starting to use some manipulation tactics such as guilt tripping to get the other person to do what you want them to do. That is conditional love. I love you until you meet the conditions that I want you to meet. So what is love? Love is the synthesis and synchronicity of polar opposites. In other words, when you see the good and the bad in the other person, not the fantasy and the nightmare that you turn them into, that is love. And love is not a feeling. Because when you see both the good and the bad in the other person, you won't feel anything. No butterflies in the stomach, no admiration, no resentment, no emotions or feelings whatsoever. You feel nothing. Love is a frequency, it's not an emotion. Emotions are a feedback mechanism to let us know that we're not authentic. Whenever you like or admire someone, you put them on a pedestal and put yourself on a pit and say, I can't ever be like them. In other words, you're too humble to admit that what you see in them is also within you. And whenever you dislike or despise someone, you put them in the pit and put yourself on a pedestal and say, I'm not like them. In other words, you're too proud to admit that what you see in them is also within you. The reality is that we're all equals. Whenever there's a judgment, love cannot exist. And if we break down the feelings behind judgment, it can be either one of these or even a combination of these. Resentment, apathy, feeling proud, envy, feeling less than, and so on. And that pulls you back into the 3 R's And the universe is telling you that it wants you to work on your next layer. Step 7. How do we create from nothingness? So now that we learn how to dissolve, or how do we actually create? There's another myth here that I want to address. And that is that in order for this connection to the universe to actually occur, you have to work on your crown chakra. Okay. So in my experience, that is false. I did close to no work on my crown chakra, and the majority of the work was done in the bottom 3 chakras, which is the root, which is at the bottom of your spine, the sacral, which is in the womb area, and the solar plexus, which is in the stomach area. Why? Well, the root chakra deals with fears. So afraid, scared, worried, safety and security. And it's also where the masculine resides, where the masculine energy resides. Okay. The masculine is the protector, the provider, and all that. So it's going to be in the root chakra. The sacral chakra deals with the womb, with the sexuality, with the creativity, and it's the female energy within us. When I say masculine and feminine energy, I'm not referring to the physical body. We all have these energy within us. And you are going to notice people walking around either more masculine or more feminine. Okay. Even if I'm a female, I could naturally have more masculine energy. I could be doing more. I could be protector and provider and all that. And honestly, that is the energy that I came in this lifetime. And that's out of balance. So now it wants me to go and be in my feminine and learn how to work with that. And then you will see a lot of men coming in naturally in their female energy where they don't do anything. Okay. And in a household, you cannot have 2 of the same energies, because once you are in your masculine, the other person is going to default in their feminine. And once you're in your feminine, the other one's going to default in the masculine. Try this out. You're going to see the shift. However, in order for you to shift the other person, you first got to shift within you. The solar plexus deals with you being able to stand in your power once you heal the masculine and the feminine energy within you. And you unite them in the solar plexus chakra and then step into the world as a united being, not a divided being. And from there, you ascend to the heart chakra, to unconditional love. And from there, you speak from the throat chakra through unconditional love. And you start seeing win-win situations through the third eye chakra, which is right in the middle of your eyes. And then you strengthen the connection with your own reality, with your own being through the crown chakra. Okay? Because now you're no longer in your amygdala or your root chakra in your survival mode. And you can now govern yourself from the prefrontal cortex or your angelic center. And once you get to the space of unconditional love for others and self, you realize we're all one and we're all connected. And you realize that if you hurt another person, you're actually hurting yourself, because everyone else is just your mirror. Now, when you're in this place of a raised vibration and frequency, now you can create a new path instead of repeating the same old pattern. So how do we do that? It's quite simple, honestly. Number 1, answer this question. What do you want? The majority of people that I work with, and I ask them this question of what do you want, they shrug their shoulders and say, I don't know. When you ask a kid what they want for Christmas, they're going to hand you a list. Now, lo and behold, the kid gets exactly what it is that they want under the Christmas tree on Christmas Day. The reality is that the universe wants to give you what you want. You just have no clue what you want. Here's a typical interaction between you and the universe, or your genie, however you want to call it. Universe, genie is the same thing. You, I want a relationship. The universe, your wish is my command. So now it starts to rearrange things to create the circumstances for you to start having a relationship. You 10 minutes later, I hate men. I'm so happy that I'm not in a relationship. The universe, your wish is my command. So now it starts to undo everything that it has set in motion. You 10 minutes later, but it was nice when I was, cuddling with someone at night. The universe, your wish is my command. So now again, it starts to rearrange stuff and circumstances for you to be in a relationship. You 10 minutes later, but I hate it when they leave the toilet seat up. The universe, your wish is my command. So now it starts to undo everything that it has set in motion. You 10 minutes later. Christmas is around the corner and I don't want to go to the party alone. I don't like it when everyone's on my case because I'm still single. The universe, your wish is my command. So now again, it starts to rearrange stuff so you can meet someone, so you can take to party and be in a relationship. You 10 minutes later, but December is my busiest month. I have no time to find someone. And the universe, your wish is my command. So now again, it starts to undo everything. And you get the point. Frankly, I am grateful that the universe is so patient. It took me about 32 years to realize that I was driving crazy the universe with my indecisiveness. And once I started to know what I wanted and I started to be detailed about it and worked on what was in the way of me getting the specific thing that I wanted, everything else is magic. I do want to address another myth though. And the myth is that I only have to ask and it is given. And this is an Abraham Hicks saying, ask and it is given. And then she says that you just have to raise your vibration and meet, everything else in the vibration that you wanted in. And it's yours. Now, like, okay, great. So how do I do that? First of all, in my personal experience, I did ask and then did nothing and it wasn't given. In other words, just asking for stuff without working through whatever keeps you from the stuff that you're asking, which is your limiting beliefs and stories, didn't work for me. Meditating and singing, Kumbaya did not work for me. If it works for you, great, keep on doing that. It just didn't work for me until I looked at what was the in between stuff. This is where I am, this is where I go. What's keeping me from it? Okay. Number two, you want to be specific. So once you start getting an idea about what you want, like more money, less debt, a relationship, and so on, you want to fill in the details because if you don't, then the universe is going to fill in the details for you. For example, let's say you want more money. So as you walk to your grocery store, you're going to notice a penny on the ground. That's more money. And then you're like, well, I wanted more than that. However, you never specified how much. Also, you can ask for $1 million right now and start clearing what's keeping you from having it. However, the moment that you get it, you will allocate it the same exact way you're allocating the money right now, which might not be the best way, depending on your circumstances. If you want a relationship, the universe might pick someone for you to meet, and you're like, but he smokes and drinks and, whatever else you dislike about him. And again, you didn't specify, so you want to be specific. I have 2 weeks dedicated to just teaching people how to ask from the universe in my 12-week program. And that's how important this step is. 3, know your North Node. Now, your North Node is from astrology, and it's so important to know what your North Node is. The North Node is actually what you came here to do this lifetime. Okay. Now, why is this important? Because if you're North Node Aquarius like I am, we cannot ask for money, cars, or a house straight up. It's not going to work. That's because our South Node is Leo, and South Node represents the past lives. And in past lives, we've been rich people, we've been royalty, kings and queens, and had it all. And that is out of balance now. So we came into this lifetime to balance that out. So whenever we ask now for a house, a car, and everything in between, that is like a fail switch to not overinflate the ego. And that doesn't mean we can't ask for the house, the cars, and the money. We just have to do it in a different way, as in, I want to serve X amount of people. So you would take your goal, let's say of $5,000 a month, and reverse engineer it into how many people do I need to serve to get $5,000 a month. Now, if you're a Leo North Node, you can ask for the money, for the car, and for everything else straight up. Why? Because you have spent lifetime over lifetime over lifetime being a humanitarian, the polarity, Aquarius South Node, and that is out of balance. So this lifetime, you wanted to be the rich person. You wanted to experience that and balance everything out. Because again, everything is designed to be in perfect balance. And if you're curious about what your North Node is, take a moment and look at the screen and find yours, and then go ahead and do some specific research on it. I am called to do some videos that go in depth in this topic. However, this is more likely going to be a paid service because it's going to be part of my level 2 training. So in level 1, I just teach people how to do everything that I just shared with you without adding the North Node. So it's literally taking them where you are, where you want to be, what's the in between. Let's go ahead and clear that with the model that I showed you. Why? Because I'm grateful that it was about a year into my journey of learning and mastering this stuff that I learned to read my chart, because I hyperventilated the first time that I realized what I'm actually here to do. However, because I had the tools, I knew how to overcome the resistance I felt on my own chart and blame myself and criticize myself for putting the chart together the way that I did. Because I am aware that I created a chart before I incarnated. So after a year of mastering this work, then I introduced the North Node component, and we start working on clearing what's in the way of you following your North Node. Because again, that is what you came here to do. Apart from everything else in your chart, that is your calling, that is your purpose, your North Node. Okay. Number 4, do not control the how. Once you got your specific ask, now you're going to work on releasing the in-between stuff. And you will not ask this. I want a relationship in the summer and I want us to meet on a boat and I just want to fall madly in love when we gaze upon each other's eyes. Your job is to have the specific ask that you want. Let the universe dictate the how. And some people might have issues letting go of control. That's one thing that I know I had to work on, letting go of control. Once I stopped telling the universe how to do its job and just asked for specifically what I wanted, and I worked on opening up to receiving it, however I wanted to present it to me, well, that's when the fun started. Now I get to create my own reality and I have fun while doing it. So here's a recap of everything we just covered. So this is the victim of your circumstances model. So remember, when there's an event and you attached an emotion, you created a story around it, and you made it mean something about you. This is from your amygdala. And you're in positive, negative, fantasy, nightmare, and you're going to attract exactly the vibration that you put out, which is the same circumstance. Okay. Again, positive, negative, nightmare, fantasy, and all that. This is how it plays out in the 3 R's, because again, the 3 R's and those events are exactly the same. So again, positive, negative, nightmare, fantasy, you're going to attract the same circumstance, which you're going to reinforce the amygdala with the same circumstance to say, I am right, and this is now a loop. And you might actually be stuck in it. Now, this is where the choice comes in. The first thing that you're going to notice is resentment. And resentment comes from your amygdala. And if you don't catch the resentment, then it's going to go in resistance. Usually, when people are in resistance, they're going to go into revenge. Okay, because you need to be right. So you're going to do everything to prove yourself right. And this is the 3R cycle. And now you're stuck in this pattern. Or you could choose to acknowledge that you're in resistance. You accept the things that they are as they are right now. So in other words, you give up what you think you already know. And now you are in the now. You are experiencing it completely until you get to nothingness. And once you get to nothingness, there's no charge, there's no judgment, there's no nothing. You can go back into the moment of perception when this happened, and you can look back and there's no feelings, there's no thoughts, there's nothing regarding the moment of perception, the event, the trigger. and you can say thank you, I love you, and wouldn't change a thing. That's how you know you got into nothingness. And from nothingness, you can create because it's neutral. It's neutral, and you're going to create something new. And this is governed by the prefrontal cortex. So here's another representation of it. Now, if you remember in the beginning, the event attracted the same circumstance. Okay, this was it. You attract the same circumstance. You might be even trapped in a loop. You decide to do something different. Instead of going to revenge, you're going to acknowledge. And now this link that was here previously is gone. It dissolved. So now you get to create a new circumstance. Okay, but it comes from neutrality. There's nothing in here. So I named this here creator or master of your destiny model. This is the transformation model. And again, this is all prefrontal cortex. Now I want to share with you the law of duality, the positive and the negative, the positive and the negative. Okay. This is the law of duality, which is also the second dimension. The first dimension is oneness. And then it split itself into two because you cannot evolve if there is no challenges, when we've already discussed about this. This is what is in the second dimension, is positive and negative, and this is where the law of duality comes from. Now, the law of duality is encompassed in the third dimension. So again, you can experience the law of duality with positive and negative, or you can learn how to use the transformational model when you are in the 3 R's to transform that resentment into nothing and then create a new circumstance. This is your choice. You either choose to do this or you choose to do this. It's still the 2D. Now it's a bit different. Instead of coming from the amygdala here, you come from the prefrontal cortex, which is totally different. So now you have the 3D, which is where we live, because now the positive and the negative are no longer there. It's no longer connected, and now you have a neutral point. It's a third point that we created. You can get to here. And once you keep on doing this over and over and over and over again, you are going to get into something like this. So let's trace it. Remember, positive and negative, we neutralized it, we created a new circumstance. Now, in that new circumstance, again, you're going to attract the positive and you're going to attract the negative and you're going to neutralize that, and so on and so forth. And this is when you start to become the creator of your own reality. This, my friend, is the ninth dimension. And this is how you get there. This is how you become the creator of your own reality and you escape the matrix. Now, when I say escape the matrix, that's actually a false term, because the only way to quote unquote escape the matrix is for you to die. However, down here on Earth, the way that you can quote unquote escape the matrix is to become it. And how do you become the matrix? Is when you start becoming the creator of your own destiny, which is exactly what we've been through in this video. Now, I want to insert something here, and I actually want to talk about the movie The Matrix. So if you go back and remember when Neo went into Agent Smith, okay, first of all, let's look at the symbolism. Neo is the person that's awakened. Okay, the person that sees the program, sees the illusion, sees everything, and he knows how to work with it now. Okay, so he knows that the only way to dissolve the program is from the inside out. So what does he do? He jumps into Agent Smith, and you start seeing all this animation from a light coming from the heart and going out, and then it dissolves the program. Okay, that is exactly what I'm telling you to do, and I'm giving you the steps in this video. Now, there's a lot of symbolism in the Matrix, and for those of you who don't know, the Matrix was actually created by people who went to a series of seminars. And at the end of it, they were like, we have to share this with other people. And this is the way that they created it. Okay. So right now, you are going to have people that are going to tell you, hey, do you want to stay in the illusion or do you want to wake up? Who's that? That's Morpheus. Do you want the red pill or do you want the blue pill? Okay. And there's also the symbolism of the white rabbit. So for me, I go down in rabbit holes all day long if I have to and dig through the programs and figure out where does this limiting belief comes from? Where does this come from? And I dissolve it. Okay, so there's a symbolism of a white rabbit going down the rabbit hole. Then you have Neo before he awakens. That is our avatar. All of us have that. This body is your avatar in this current incarnation. Okay. So when Morpheus says, do you want the red pill or do you want the blue pill? Do you want to stay in the illusion or do you want to, you know, wake up and notice that everything is an illusion? Everything. The computer that I'm looking at is an illusion. Everything is an illusion. Okay. So once they go past that, and now he sees these two realms. Okay, so what is the other realm that they are in when they're not connected into the matrix? That is the place that you go when you are asleep. Okay, that is when you know everything. This is where you get the downloads. When he was able to learn kung fu like this, you can actually do that. Yes, you can. I know it's a bit hard to believe, however, you can. Once you go into that dimension, you can learn everything, and it's so much easier to get the information and get the downloads. However, there's a lot of cleansing and a lot of cleaning that has to happen down here in the dense world, so you can ascend, go up there and do all of that. Okay, so once you go through the movie, you will see all the symbolism. And here's another kicker that I just found out recently, that Sarah Connor from the Terminator is actually Neo's mom. She lives in the world before the machines. And Neo comes to undo everything that the machines did. And he is here to fight the machines if they have to. And if you actually watch the entire, now 4 movies, you will see the continuity of everything. And I also believe now, with everything that I have learned, that Trinity and Neo are actually twin flames because the age difference is there. He's the masculine, she's the feminine, and it just makes sense. However, I haven't seen that in a year or so, and I'm not sure when I'm going to see it again, but this just came to me right now. And the way that they have their relationship is totally different from everything else. Okay. So I just wanted to leave that in here because the Matrix was actually created from people that went through specific training, and I went through the same training. And I've been told in that training that the Matrix was created by graduates of that series. And I'm like, well, that makes sense because the first matrix is equating to the first thing that they have. The second matrix is equating to the second thing that they have. And the third is equated to the third thing that they have. I could see it. So I just wanted to let you know that all that is there, all the symbolism is in there. And if you haven't seen The Matrix in a while, go and see it. And you're going to see a lot of things that we thought were not real. If you look at it again, you will see that, maybe it's not so crazy after all. Okay. So if you are called to do that, and you want to come back here and let me know what you saw now after all this information, I would love to hear your comments below. Step 8, practical example. Now until here, everything was theoretical. And now we're going to look at a practical example. And I'm going to share with you a clip of me working on myself. And just note that you might get triggered of some of the visuals, some of the audio, or the things that I'm going to say and how I'm going to coach myself through the process. So from here on out, again, enter at your own risk. The limiting belief that I am working on here is this is getting too real. So that's what I'm working on. So now I'm going to go ahead and close my eyes and I'm going to ask myself, where else in my life were things getting too real for me? And immediately my chest just tightened up and I can feel something in here. So I start massaging. And what came up for me was my wedding day, which at the same time, I know this is not where it originated because I kind of been digging a bit on this. Um, so I'm going to go back to where I've landed on last time that it originated in, and that is um me about to leave Romania and cross the ocean. And I visited this place quite a few times recently. And that was the time like, oh no, shit is getting real. Like this I really have to go. And the thing that's coming up for me now is like I'll be on my own. It's the first time. It's the first time I'll be on my own. Like literally on my own. Because up until that point I was living with mom and I was with her, and but from here on out I'm gonna be on my own. And I feel very afraid. Because I'm literally about to go in a place where I don't know the language. The only thing that I know is my ex-boyfriend, and I know English, and that's about it. And they don't speak English there. So I have never lived alone in my life. And I'm about to live alone, crossing the ocean in a country that I don't even speak the language. I feel very scared. And I'm having doubts. I'm having doubts whether to go, whether to not go. Is it? And I didn't even notice. I didn't even notice these doubts when I was in the moment. And I'm noticing them now. And all these doubts, like, am I going to be okay? And there's anger in there. My head's starting to hurt. Because up to some level, I do feel angry at myself for even putting myself in that position. I'm literally just giving up all the safety and security that I know. And gambling it all away on someone that I met online. And it's just feel very angry at myself for putting myself in that situation. It's like, what the heck are you thinking? Like, what if this doesn't go the way that, what if he's not who he says he is?
and you're stuck in a foreign country. You don't speak the language, you don't have anyone there. What are you going to do if everything goes south? You don't even know how to ask for help. And this is where all the sadness comes in. Oh, 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 there's another level of fear that's trapped in. I don't know if this is liver or whatever it is, but it's just started poking me very badly. Oh, and it's moving around. And I just feel so afraid. And it's very fitting that it's on the right hand side because the person I was going to is a male. And it's just, I'm just afraid. I'm just afraid to do it because I'm afraid I'm gonna fail. I'm afraid I'm not. There's just so much fear there. Oh, there's just so much fear there. There's just so much fear there. Ah, and now there's anger again. I'm just so angry at myself, just so angry at myself. You don't know what's going to happen, and you have no safety net. There's no one you can call. You really don't get it, and if things go south, you might even end up dead, and no one would fucking know about it. Not even your own mother. There's a lot of sadness there. There's a lot of blame, there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of guilt. And even though I've done my research up to the best of my ability and whatnot, there's still this nagging voice in my head saying you could have done better, you could have done something else and all that. And that's where the anger comes from. Because the anger part is basically, oh, the anger part is basically me wanted, it wanted me to to be safe. And there was nothing safe about it. I didn't know the person that well. I didn't know the country. I didn't speak the language. I didn't know the customs. There's nothing there. And all the alarms went off. And that's why the anger is there, because there's a true sense of danger that I could have really died. And that's where the fear comes from. Because if things really went south, I would have been dead. And no one would know. No one would know. And the amount of guilt that I feel now that I land on this for putting my mother through that. Oh, I left home at 21, and it took me 13 years to put myself in her shoes and to realize that if things really went south, she wouldn't have known. Because 13 years ago, you didn't have Wi-Fi everywhere. 13 years ago, in Romania, we didn't have cell phones that would even have Wi-Fi or internet. She wouldn't have known. She didn't even have a cell phone. The only way that I could call her was through a landline. There's the amount of guilt that I feel that I put her through that. Oh, and the anger that I have around that. And there's a reason I started with the meditation before, because I didn't have access to all this before the meditation. It didn't allow me to see all these things beforehand. Now I understand why. I understand 100% why they want me to see this. Because up to some point, the reason why you're not allowed to see certain things is because they're still trying to protect you. There's the protection mechanism in place, is not allowing you to go and see certain things and let go of them. Oh, and there's still guilt and sadness there. I'm just working through that. And yawning, if you do yawn as you do your release, it's another form of release. So I highly, highly, highly encourage each and every one of you as you go through processing your own stuff. If you need a yawn, yawn. If you need a cough, cough. I'm not sure if we're gonna get this on tape on any of the sessions when I go through my own stuff, but I do have sessions where I cough so much that I almost vomit. And I never did vomit. It's just what's called an energetic release. So if you're called to cough, go ahead and cough. Whatever you're called to do, go ahead and do that. Speaking of coughing, that's my way of knowing whenever I cough. even a normal cough, like even when I'm not processing stuff, I know that coughing is there's something there that wants to be spoken and it's not being communicated. Whatever it is that I'm going through. And when I notice that I cough, I'm like, okay, there's a fur ball here that needs to be expressed. And then I started asking myself, so, where in my life am I not being truthful, either with myself, either with in a situation where I'm not speaking my truth. And as soon as I go and rectify that, I'd stop coughing. So that's one thing that I've noticed for myself. Excuse me. Now there is some pain around here. So I'm not so sure what that's about. But I did, where I did end up, usually there's this field, and I've seen this field for a long period of time, where on the left, it's a dirt road, and on each side, no, on the left-hand side only, there's like a fence, and on somewhere in the distance, there's like a rundown house. And then I end up at a tree in the middle, and then the dirt road splits into two. And I've landed here yesterday, because I did a meditation yesterday. I landed here yesterday. And usually when I land here, it's like there's a decision there that needs to be made. And in my case was the decision, to I either stay in Romania or I, leave to Uruguay. And I chose leaving to Uruguay. And I was just actually thinking about this yesterday. Like, a lot of people don't realize, but there's endless possibilities that your life can go in. Like there's in one reality, there's this Cristina that's still living in Romania. And even in that reality, there's a Cristina that never went to college. And there's the Cristina that went to college but stayed in Romania. Then, there's the Cristina that went to Uruguay, and then there's the Cristina that never made it to the United States and is still in Uruguay. And all of these different possibilities, which I was actually landing on yesterday. So it's like it's really interesting once you go down that rabbit hole. And as I said, that the pain that I had in here actually subsided, so I don't feel anything. I do feel something in my stomach though. So it's not actually the stomach as it is where below the navel point, where the sacral chakra is. And now it's coming back to my heart. And it's just noticing the pain and noticing if there's any feelings in there. So I'm gonna go back and check in with myself. Okay, there's still a bit of fear left. But now it's not afraid or scared, it's just worried. Just worried that, what if things don't work out the way that I want to? What if things don't work out with the relationship that I want to? What if I fail? I literally have no backup plan. The only backup plan that I put in place was a return ticket. And even in that reality, there's a Christina that could have gone on that return ticket. That's the only backup plan that I did. And that was a 3 months return. There's definitely something there that needs to be expressed. I'm just trying to locate where it is and to whom. Okay. So I remembered it on the day of when I was supposed to be on a flight to leave back to Romania. I finally found some type of work, but I didn't know exactly what it was. And the lady just needed me to type some things for her. She was a very, very spiritual person. And this was the very first spiritual person I encountered. And at that time, I didn't know anything about spirituality or whatnot. And I wasn't against it. I was just, helping her make videos and all that, and um writing down her downloads, which now I recognize that they were downloads, and at the same time, back then I was just doing what I was told. So I was writing down, that was my job, to write down what she was saying and do videos from her. And I remember this particular day where I was supposed to actually be in the airport, if shit hit the fan in those 3 months, like I had an going back ticket. And I remember looking up at the sky and I see an airplane. And I remember, like, today was the day. Today was the day when I could have gone back. And knowing what followed after that, there's a lot of beating myself up that I should have been on the plane. There's a lot of sadness there, and there's a lot of guilt. I should have been on the plane. I should have been on that plane. Why did you go on that plane? You knew that things were not that good, even after 3 months. And you stuck with him. You stuck it out anyway. And again, you had nothing here. Like nothing was keeping you here. Life would have been so much easier back home. You did not need to go through all the things that you went through. Oh, you could have avoided all that. It just went the fuck home. Oh, um, here's the anger coming out. You just needed to get home. You just needed to get on that plane. You just had to go on that plane. Why didn't you go on that plane? Why didn't you go on the plane? And now, because I have such an unbalanced perspective of this particular event, I only see the drawbacks of not going back and not taking that opportunity. And now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to balance out my perspective. And I'm going to go from that moment forward. What are the benefits that came out of me staying in Uruguay? First things first, I would have not learned Spanish. I went to Uruguay without learning how to speak Spanish. For some reason, I was able to understand Spanish if someone spoke it to me softly, not softly, but um uh not so fast. Um I knew how to write Spanish perfectly, apparently, by some miracle. Um, but I wasn't able to speak it. And after I landed the job that I did, I learned to speak Spanish in 3 months, and I was still fluent at it. So I wouldn't have learned that, which I know now. Oh, geez. I've landed on this before, but the whole reason why I went to Uruguay, now seeing the people that came in contact with, is because there's this person that remembers all his past lives, that remembers all the universe and how it was created and all that. And he was born in Argentina. And I went to Uruguay and I went to Argentina, and Uruguay and Argentina are the only two countries with the same or very, very similar Spanish dialect. And I landed on this before, and it was my responsibility to learn Spanish because I needed to understand what he had to say, should he never had learned how to talk English. So I landed on this a while ago. So that would have not happened. And now I would have not understood. Well, I understand what he's saying now, but if he wouldn't have learned Spanish, and I wouldn't have learned all the things that I've learned from him, yeah, that wouldn't be there. That's one thing. And all the people that I have met after that, just by being there, I wouldn't I wouldn't have met anyone. And I wouldn't have had the job that I had in order to meet these people. And I wouldn't have the computer knowledge that I have today in going in and testing websites and knowing where to look what to look for and how to integrate everything and automate stuff and all that. I wouldn't have had that knowledge because I never would have had a job. And in that job, in that job is where I started living by my values, and I wasn't even aware of it. Because I was their top trainer. Anyone that was new, they came to me. I was the one that was training them. And I got really, really good at it. I got really good at it. And I enjoyed it so much. I wouldn't have been a leader. I wouldn't have been a leader from the age of 25. Even though I wasn't officially recognized with the title and the salary and all that, I knew how to lead people. I knew how to lead people in a way that they would follow because they wanted to follow. My team, I was leading a team of 3 to 4 people in Uruguay, and I had some people offshore in India. And we were actually working in the company in a project, and that project was Comcast. So Comcast has had an offshore to us and to India, and the only team the only team that knew how to do this specific thing was my team in Uruguay. And because of, I don't know, taxes or whatnot, uh, they started pulling out the teams from Uruguay, and my team was the last team that went, and it was because of me. And I would have not developed the leadership skills that I currently have, where people want to do the work because they love working. I wouldn't have learned that. I wouldn't have gone through learning how to bond with people as people and meeting them where they're at. And like, okay, what do you need? And how can I support you and all that? And at the same time, you know, letting them know that yes, I got your back, but at the same time, if you have any issues or if you don't understand something, come to me, we'll solve it. I wouldn't have had all that training. That was my sandbox. That's where I practiced. That's where I practiced leading people. So I can now lead people and have a following to build this vision that I have for the world. I would have not been able to do that. And I left back home. And I would not have met Kala. I would not have this vision. I would not have the awakening. I would not have anything that I have today. I would probably be doing something completely different back home. And I probably wouldn't even have an IT job because of the level of corruption that we have back home. And I had to go to work through college, and I couldn't get an IT job back home. And I had to be either a waitress or a cleaning lady with a freaking degree. Cleaning lady or a waitress with a bachelor's degree. Because I couldn't find work at home. And that's the number one reason what drove me out of my country. I couldn't find work. And because they prefer to have, the daughter of who or whatever that doesn't know crap. They prefer to have those people working for them rather than, someone that's skilled and knows what the fuck they're doing. And that's what drove me out of my country. So would I go back and get on that plane? Fuck no. I would not do that. I would not do that. Because all of those things made me who I am today. I needed to go through each and every one of those things to have the awakening, to go through my spiritual journey, to be able to have the vision and see the vision, and then work through my own shit to be able to inspire people and teach them how to work through their own stuff as well. Because no one teaches you this in class. No one teaches you this in class. And I wish I had this when I was a teenager. I really do. It would have saved a lot of headaches and a lot of heartache. But that's another, rabbit hole. So would I hop on that plane now? I'm checking back and see if there's anything there. No, I'm just I mean, there's something there, but it's not a negative side. It's just a positive side of being very happy. And I have something in my eye. That's the only reason why I'm poking it. Because otherwise I would just leave the tears running, but I don't know what it is. Something poking me. Um, so now I'm gonna go and integrate these two things. So going back into my house in Romania, and I see myself standing at the desk with the suitcase. Ooh, you're fucking brave. You're fucking brave. I don't know anyone who would have done what you did. At 21 years old, just pack two suitcases, grab your laptop, go across the ocean to a place you probably never even heard of before. You don't even speak the language. And to see where you are now, you got some balls. You really got some balls. And I'm so fucking proud to be you. I'm so fucking proud to be you. Then she's just sitting there and just tears flowing down her face, just like mine. So I'm gonna go ahead and give her a hug. And as I do that, I also want to say you're fucking amazing and never forget that. So now I'm imagining us going closer and closer and closer together. And I see a dirt road like over like a mountain, like it's going up, and it's kind of like the sunrise is coming, the either sunrise or something, I don't know, the sun is kind of slowly coming on top of that, and there's either, I don't know, ATVs or whatever, but there's like two people coming on top of that with it. And this is the first time I'm seeing this, by the way. I've never seen this image before. And just having fun, and yeah, it's just very, very interesting. And I'm actually going on top of that mountain or dirt road or whatnot, and it's just gorgeous. It's a country road. On the right hand side is just a field. It's so green. And on the left hand side is like a small little hill and still greenery. And in the distance there's like a little village, and the sun's up high, and it's just beautiful. And I've never seen this before in my life. I have no clue what's here. And at the same time, it wants me to go to the village, so I'm going in the village. And I'm looking around, and it's just, oof, no body sensations. At the moment that I saw the village, just chills run up and down my spine. Oh, I know. I know what this village is. Oh, this is my village, and these are my people. Oh, this is my village, and these are my people. And that's exactly how I feel it. Like, because I feel the love the moment that I set it step foot in that village. I felt the love, and it's like I know all these people, and of course I know all these people because these people are my people. Oh. And I'm building my tribe. I'm building my village. Because it's gonna take a fucking village to bring this vision to life. And I've already started. And it just feels so good to be in that village. It's like everywhere that I turn. And these are people I haven't even met yet. There's just so much love there. There's so much love and support. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. Oh, oh, I don't, I don't even know why I expected you not to be here. The person that came out that I recognize is actually my person. And I've seen this person for a very long time. And he actually came into my life. Like, he's the person that's literally my male version. And he came into my life back in December. And he is the person that's been a little bit with me for the past week or so. And we're very aware that we're not there yet. We're very aware that yes, that we recognize each other in that way. And we're also aware that we're not there yet. Like we're not ready to be a romantic thing. But I just saw him coming out, and that's why I started crying. It's like and like he started smiling like, of course you're here. Like, of course. Yeah. Because I know that some of the things that I'm going to build, it's going to involve him as well. So yeah, of course. Got the village and I got you. Got that. So just saying thank you and giving him a hug and yeah, that's very beautiful. Okay, so now that dissipated, and I'm gonna go into this event that I was on actually a sidewalk. So I'm gonna integrate that part too. So I see myself. Again, you've got some balls. You've got some balls to do what you did. Like, you're crazy, but crazy in a good way. You love taking risks, and some way, shape, or form, they pay out. They pay out and they pay out big time. And I just want you to know that I love you. And keep on being the weird ass, crazy, taking risk, adventurous person that you are. Because for some odd reason it works. For some odd reason it works. We're not gonna question that. We're not gonna question it. Thank you for being you, and I love you. And she just starts laughing her butt off, and you just go ahead and hug, and we go closer, and closer, and closer together until we become one. And I'm up in a cloud somewhere. There's white light, cloud. I'm walking through the cloud. Usually there's something there. And the sun's there. And the reason I'm smiling at the sun, because I know that my person's a Leo, and Leo in astrology. So the zodiac sign is linked with astrology, and Leo holds the sun. Like that's the link. Leo is the sun. I think Aquarius is Uranus or something like that. So each zodiac sign has its own planet. So that's why I'm smiling, because I see the sun. In the cloud, I see the sun. I'm like, okay, that could have another meaning to it. Um, what I'm hearing is just enjoy where you're at and enjoy the journey, because everything else is going to fall into place. You just enjoy the journey. Mm. Okay, and everything dissipated. And here I am. Jesus Christ, that was a whirlwind. If you got any value out of it, do let me know in the comment section and all that.
So I just wanted to share a few examples of what I was able to achieve after I had done some of those sessions. First of all, what you're viewing right now and the YouTube channel and everything would have not been possible had I not worked on some communication triggers that came up as I was responding to Facebook comments. So I went to work and I discovered some things around how I perceive that getting attention would actually physically harm me. And I was looking into that rabbit hole and I discovered some things and I let go of some things. And this is how I'm able to do these videos right now. For example, I was living in Tennessee. However, I knew that my heart wanted to be in LA. So then I started working on what is there that is keeping me in Tennessee, not allowing me to move in LA. And I worked in between. There was a lot of fear. I didn't know anyone in here. And I had to work through that to be able to come to LA. So once I worked through all the fears, I packed the car and I came to LA. And I can give you more and more and more examples, not only from myself, but also from my mother, from my clients, and all that, of how working with this model actually transformed our lives. However, we would probably be here until next year. And I don't want to do that to you. Now it's your turn. Which one of these 8 steps shifted your perspective the most? Share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to read them. If this video resonated with you and you're ready to take this deeper, to manifest with intention, reprogram your reality, and truly become the matrix and the creator of your own reality, then visit the link in the description to explore the services that I offer. And if you found the contents of this video valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who could benefit from this knowledge. My mission is to share these downloads with as many people as possible, and your support will help spread the message and potentially raise the collective consciousness and vibration. Even if you choose not to comment, the simple act of subscribing creates an energetic connection, make it easier for me to tune into the collective challenges you may be facing and craft content that speaks directly to your journey. Remember, nothing is random. The video reached you exactly at the right moment. Keep expanding, keep evolving, and keep creating your own reality. I'll see you in another video.